Whomsoever nicks me shall lay claim to this my arm. Its glory and riches shall be thine. But thy champ must bind himself to this.
Hey, I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah. You're listening to A Bite Of,
Where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession. Forgot the name there.
I did. I actually really did. I was like Green Knight. It's not what it's called.
And enjoy it one nibble at a time.
And also remember the name.
Sometimes it happens.
All right. Well, special announcement real quick. Let's just hit pause. And say thank you to one of our brand new Patreon supporters. Thank you, Amelia. And I went back and forth between how to say your last name, and I put Dougherty. Derek thinks it's
Dougherty. I had a teacher in high school whose last name was spelled the way yours is, and we called him Mr. Dougherty.
I almost thought it was Daughtry, and I was like, relation? Nope. No. It's not even spelt right.
I mean, maybe, you never know, but not the same last name.
But anyway, Amelia, you're a big dealia to us.
Beautiful. Yeah. Amelia, we really feel your support.
Hope you enjoyed that shout out. Also, you can send us a pronunciation guide and then we'll correct it.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah. Anybody that future, if you're thinking about supporting us and your name is, could be hard or it's not, sounds like the way it's spelled, just
yeah, or know. Not at all. Just even if it is easy, give us a pronunciation guide. That way we know
fun.
It. Yeah.
That's always fun. And then as always, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at A Bite Of. Man,
did you want to say Patreon?
I did.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
I
could
weird.
Feel that.
But follow us on all the social media things at A Bite Of Pod.
Y'all, listen, we literally just got back from the theater where we saw The Green Knight, and that movie was a trip, and I think our brains are just gobbledygook.
Yeah, I'm still trying to process, and the camera was very spinny at times, and I feel like I'm spinning, so yeah. Bear with me.
Of course, spoiler alert, in case you want to see The Green Knight, and maybe you haven't read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, or even if you have, spoiler alert. So just know we're going to be talking about things that you might not want to know about.
Yeah, because it is different from the source material.
Yeah.
Is there really a source material? Who knows?
This seems like a very loosely based version of that story. But let us officially take a bite of The Green Knight.
Yay! David Lowery's The Green Knight.
A24's David Lowery's The Green Knight.
I love A24. Most people that know me know that I love A24 and most of their movies that they put out. There's been some misses and some very big hits for me. Saint Maud was very excited for it. Did not like it.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
I mean, this new one coming out, Lamb, which I'm just refusing to see right now.
I want to see it so bad.
No.
Noomi Rapace? Are you kidding me?
Listen, there is a sheep that's mad about them stealing their baby.
Their human lamb baby?
And I think there's going to be a all-out human sheep battle that I just don't think I'm ever going to be prepared for.
That sounds fun.
Oh, so much blood and...
Anyway, that's what's coming up in A24's pipeline.
All right, but... just a little bit of research, of course, on the back end. So I did read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
I attempted and did not have time because of work.
Yes. So I blasted through it. I read it like in 2 sittings. I read it all night on Friday night, and then I woke up early on Saturday and I read it and I finished it. I was like, all right, did it, done. So Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, we actually read the new illustrated edition that came out this year. It's a medieval poem from the 14th century. It was originally written in Middle English, but it's been newly translated into sort of standard English.
Ish.
And it's written by anonymous. So, of course, it was told out loud, and then finally someone wrote it down. But nobody knows who really created this tale.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
I like this. I mean, it's kind of like Shakespeare. People don't really know if Shakespeare's real or not, but
yeah.
I mean, Shakespeare has a lot of plays and poems out there.
Whomever Shakespeare was, and sometimes it's like Shakespeare's a group of people or whatever.
Right.
So this is along those lines, but this is truly, if you look, it says written by anonymous. So this is the tale of Sir Gawain, one of the Knights of the Round Table in Arthur's court. He is part of a game where he chops the Green Knight's head off, and then a year later has to go receive the same blow. And it's that tale of him getting there.
Wait, was he a knight in the book?
Yes, he's a knight.
Oh, in this one, he's not a knight.
Yeah, they changed it.
Oh, poor Dev Patel.
Yeah, so I think that the reason he's not a knight in this one is to add more motivation to the story of why he would want to be part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, so just generally with the story or the movie is if the guy, so the Green Knight is like, I'll return the same blow to you. Why would you go for the head? Why would you chop off his head? Like, I would just go and like boop his nose or like...
Yeah, just give him a slap across the face.
I mean, it does. I mean, that's the point of it. It's like, he knows that he's going to get the same blow with his head being cut off. So it's like, that sucks. But like, think it through just a tiny bit.
I agree. I mean, obviously, for the motivation of the character, the whole thing is that I was saying, like, this feels like that movie with Matthew McConaughey, Failure to Launch, about the adult son that just like won't leave the house. It's like he's this kid who just like spends his time at the brothel and just messes around and doesn't do anything real. So they had to devise a plan for him to make something of himself. And I feel like in this story, we needed that motivation. Whereas in the book, it's literally like, I'll do it for you, Arthur. Like here, it's like, well, why would you chop someone's head off if they said they're going to do the same thing to you?
Right. Also, this was written in the 14th century, and I'm pretty sure beheadings were like a trend. It was a thing.
Yeah. And also like maybe in like spoken epic poems, they didn't think a lot about character motivation. It just was what it was.
Yeah. And I know this poem in particular has been translated by a lot of people, even J.R.R. Tolkien. So it's made its course through most of like the English majors. I know one of my best friends, she has an English major and she went for teaching, and she had read that book. And I remember when she had to, she did not like it one bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see like how much the story is still being passed around.
Yeah. I
think mostly because it's by anonymous, the mystery, and like, oh, why is this story still being passed around?
It's interesting because, I've read a couple articles about it, and it's considered one of the greatest stories of the Knights of the Round Table. Like, this is one of the best. And what's so interesting about it is like, it starts off strong. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, this is crazy. He chops the knight's head off, the head rolls on the floor, but then the eyes open back up and the knight picks it up. He's like, all right, see you in a year. Peace out. That's like wild. And then the rest of the book is like him just in this castle, and there's like these 3 giant hunting scenes, and then there's the end. It's like, wait,
yeah.
What?
I mean, I feel like it just goes into most of the stories then, and a lot of the Knights of the Round Table and Arthurian stories are all about honor.
Yeah.
And what that means and how far these people will go. So I don't want to say it fell into that trap because it's probably one of the earliest ones. So it kind of set that trend, but that's how most of those stories go. Mm-hmm. And we have had tons of King Arthur movies and books and everything like that. So this movie is a huge departure from all of that. Everything you could think. It's more, it seems like it's like a dark medieval fantasy, but with drama at its base. And really wanting to drive home storytelling, but also choose your own adventure.
Yeah, like, so honestly, like, I've been trying to think about it within this last hour that I've had to sit with it. And it just feels like they took pieces from so many things and tried to create a quilt of a story out of it. And I'm just not sure they got all the way there, personally. There were ghosts, there were gods, there were giants, there was the invention of photography, apparently. You know what I mean? And it's like, I saw the artistry in it, the way it was shot, the costumes. But as far as the execution of the story, it felt disjointed to me.
But that's kind of how coming of age and like hero stories are, like these big epics like the Iliad and Odyssey. I mean, that's what happens almost, is they go to these different things. They face these different creatures that all almost symbolize the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this one, it was death. The inevitability of death and what that meant. He encountered so many different types of death at different types of hands and trying to help, when he was, so there's Erin Kellyman, if you know her as the lead flag smasher from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Did you think we'd talk about Marvel in this?
We always bring it back to Marvel.
But she plays Winifred, Saint Winifred. And apparently she got her head chopped off and it was thrown into the lake. And one of the things was Gawain had to go get the head and put it back on there. And seeing the exchange between that, it was like, okay, I'm going to help you. What do I get in return?
Yeah.
And she's like, why would you ask me that? Also, what else is she supposed to give you? She's dead.
Yeah, I sort of saw it almost as a reflection of him being shaped by the world around him. So before this scene, he comes across a field with all of these dead bodies, and there's this youngster, I'll call him. I mean, I don't know how old he was.
An asshole.
Yeah. But he basically tricks Gawain into going a certain route so he and his friends could basically tie him up and steal all his belongings.
Right.
And so, he gave him this advice and he's like, oh, you're not going to give me anything? And he's like, I'll give you my thanks. And he's like, no, you have to give me something. So he gives them the shilling, but of course it was really all just a setup. So to me, that felt like a reflection of that. Like, he's still so young. He's being shaped by the world around him, but it's the wrong things. You know what I mean? He saw this thing. He thought just saying thank you was enough. But this wily character was like, no, it's not. And so when he meets St. Winifred, she's like, well, my thank you will be enough. And he's like, well, what do I get from it? So he
does get something. I mean, he gets the axe back because he lost it from that asshole. Yeah.
They stole the axe.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It just, so maybe it's death. Maybe it's about him learning from the world around him. I just felt like it felt muddled to me. It was like,
I feel like you don't like this movie. I'm curious because I feel like you're conflicted with liking it and not liking it.
Well, I liked, again, the artistry of it. I just think that the storyline was muddled. It was like I'm trying to think. It was like the storyline was the vehicle for them to shoot things pretty rather than, it's the way it was shot was the vehicle for the story instead of the other way around. Do you know what I mean? It was like, we want to do all these cool things. We want to have things flip upside down. We want to have lighting changes. We want to have these great shots of greenery. It's like, but then the storyline sort of came second. Whereas it was like, if the storyline was the through line, they could have made things happen around it instead of shaping it just so cool things could happen.
Maybe. I think, yeah. I feel like this is the first time we're both like on opposite ends of this.
Well, it's interesting. And I always look at like Rotten Tomatoes and you can sort of like take it as it is, right? And it's like, whatever, it's whatever. But it's interesting to me that it's like certified fresh by the critics' standards, but not by the audience standards. It's rotten by the audience standards. But to me, that shows it's like a critic's going like, oh yes, this is art. This is art. It's Dev Patel at his finest. But like as an audience member, I'm like, this was confusing. It made no sense. Yeah, it was pretty, but what was really happening?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think there's more like nuance to like especially Rotten Tomatoes and what that means, because there's been plenty of movies that are, by audience standards are bad and by critics it's good. And it actually is, it's kind of good. It's just a lot of people don't. I equate it to like the OA situation on Netflix. So Netflix had the show called the OA and it was very weird. It was very good, but it was just good storytelling. They didn't rely on usual tropes and stuff from TV shows or other stories to tell a story that they know people will like. You have to like sit with it and like try to understand or like be open to it. And I'm not saying that's how you are, but I'm saying I feel like when it comes to especially A24 movies, because they typically let these people have free reign on whatever they're doing, I typically feel like people expect one thing and they don't get it. Because if you look at the trailer for Green Knight, you would probably think that there's going to be action, and there's no action in this movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you thought this was good storytelling?
I did. I thought it was good because they didn't just use the actors and the dialogue and stuff to tell the story, but they used that artistry to tell the story. So particularly in that instance that we were talking about with those kids, or I guess teenagers that captured him, and he was laying there, and then there's a scene after they take all the stuff in his horse and they leave. There's a scene where the camera pans around 360, and then it shows him dead. He's a skeleton. And then it pans around the opposite way, like time going back, to him being alive. And they play with time a little bit in this movie. And they use those visuals and they use that type of thing to tell that in a different way instead of like, I don't know, the time turner in Harry Potter. Like you see them physically twisting it. You know what I mean? So it's like he has a lot of choices.
Right.
Most of his choices he makes, it's like either if you're just going to accept your fate now, you're going to die. But he ends up escaping because he's like, no, I'm gonna escape here.
No, I get that. I see the artistry. Believe me, I get the artistry. And I'm always the one that's looking for the metaphor, that wants to see the deeper meaning. I just think it was muddled here.
Like, what do you think was muddled? I'm just curious. Like, I want to talk this movie out because I feel like this is one of the like most like interesting and confusing movies that we'll probably ever talk about in this podcast. So I'm just curious, like, what was muddled for you?
Well, his journey was muddled, and it was too many things happening, so he's on this journey to go to the Green Chapel to kind of accept his fate of the game that he played, which is fine. And I'm down for a journey, and he gets tricked. Okay, we have that moment where it goes back in time, right? He could choose to die, or he could choose to kind of create his own fate. When I understand there's a point where he sort of loses his mind, right? He goes a little crazy. He takes the mushrooms, he throws up. Then there's that scene with the giants that came out of nowhere. The fox is howling at the giants are howling back. I don't understand what that means. I'm trying to figure it out. Other than an homage for Attack on Titan, I don't get it.
Yeah, okay, I will give you that I have absolutely no idea what the giants could possibly mean. I mean, maybe in this world there is all these fantasy type creatures and stuff like that, and it's just like, that's normal. Like, because he didn't seem super freaked out when he saw them.
Sure.
He was just like, can I ride on your shoulder and you could take me where I need to go? So, I mean, I think that's like part of not what we're conditioned to, but it's like, do we need everything explained? But in this instance, when it's just so like, what was the point? Because giants didn't play a part later on. So it was like, were they just guiding him? Was that just like a metaphor for guiding him in a way? But why have all these like giants?
Right.
And it was odd.
Yeah, and even the fox itself, I enjoyed the fox as his guide. Is it his conscience? Is it
his mother?
His mother, right? His mother who's orchestrated this entire thing. And I appreciated that. I'm like down. I am down for a spirit guide, or whatever you want to call it.
Can I just say that fox is like Disney level adorable.
Oh, so cute.
And it could be in a Disney. Like, I want to see the fox from the Green Knight have its own
when they make
Disney
the
movie.
quote unquote live action Fox and the Hound. That'll be the fox that they use.
No, I don't want them to make that movie.
Hey, if they could do Mufasa's whole thing in The Lion King, they'll do the Fox and the Hound.
Oh my god.
But then with the fox at the end ends up talking. And I'm like, I don't really know if it needed to talk. Why did we have to make that decision for it to talk?
So that's on the subject of his mother, and I think that this goes back to the fox. The mother did orchestrate this whole thing. And I believe in the book, it's similar to that, where like Morgan Le Fay is the one that orchestrates this whole thing. And if you know Marvel Comics, you know that they're also a sorceress in there. So bad juju.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I appreciated about the movie adaptation, so in the book, it's like you don't even hear about Morgan Le Fay until he's about to get his head chopped off. And he's like, end. Just kidding. Morgan was just trying to scare Guinevere to death. Okay, goodbye. Like, it was like, oh, that came out of nowhere. Like, I guess if you know the Arthurian legend, it's like, okay, I get it. But this one I appreciated. We see right from the beginning that his mother is the one that brings the Green Knight. And she's basically trying to push her son to be more than the kid that he is.
And I think this is where I feel like movies where it's like they don't give you a definitive answer, and it's like with his mother, was she doing this to push him, like to actually do something to become king and not just relying on his charm and his blood lineage to get there? Or was she torturing him to become a different person? Yeah, it's not clear. And
Either
I think
one,
right. So it's like she made the girdle that's to protect him. Like, he'll never fall as long as he wears the girdle. There's like an enchantment in it. Okay, great. So she's protecting him. But why did she also bring the Green Knight there? Also, she appears through different people in his journey as the old woman. And what was their name?
They were just the Lord and the Lady.
Yeah, in that castle that hunted, they like to hunt. She also appeared as the fox, because towards the end when the fox was talking, it was her voice coming through the fox. So it was like, why are you trying to get him to turn away? To see if he would turn away.
Oh, a test. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a test after a test. And I believe she also kind of was in that lady as well that kept trying to seduce him. Because when she was doing the tarot cards or whatever, it was very much like what his mother was doing.
Oh, I thought she was playing Go Fish.
Those are some creepy ass goldfish cards. But yeah, so I think it's interesting. It's like, who is the antagonist in this story? Is it himself not being able to be, rise up to the occasion and just doing what he needs to do? Or in the end, does he do that, but his evil mom was orchestrating that whole thing? Because the Green Knight necessarily isn't a villain. He's just an obstacle.
He's a catalyst.
Right.
Yeah, he is the catalyst for change. And she even sort of enchants Arthur at the beginning because she makes him say the things like, tell me a tale about yourself. He's like, I got nothing to say.
Right. So she's like pushing him.
Right.
So then when the Green Knight comes, he's like,
I'll do it.
There's my tail.
Right. Exactly. I'll chop his head off. Everybody will love it.
Yeah.
So again, she's trying to push him towards these things. But again, right? So what? Yeah. Even that, like even the mother, like you're saying with the fox, it's like, well, why was she as the fox talking to get him to not go that way? Was it another test? It's muddled, but
if from what I understand with the book and what you have told me, Morgan Le Fay was like the orchestrator for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in most Arthurian legend, it's Arthur versus Morgan Le Fay.
Right.
Christianity versus anti-Christianity, essentially. That's what this whole thing is usually about. And I feel like it was still that same way, but they tried to like not bait and switch you, but leave it open.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing that I noticed at the end, so when Gawain finally gets to the Green Chapel after many, many attempts to get there and sidetracks, the Green Knight is sitting there. It's like almost in a slumber, waiting that year for Gawain to get there and present himself.
He's just a dormant little tree man.
Right. And the camera, it focuses on him for a while. A24 and most of these directors that go with it do like to choose scenes. I like it a lot because I love visuals. That's why I read comic books. So it's like, I like to sit with some of that stuff for a little bit. You see little details and you're really processing it as you're seeing it instead of like flash, 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 flash. But in this scene, the Green Knight's face changes into everybody's face so subtly that I noticed like the last three, I believe, and it was the Lord and Lady of the castle and also his mother. So I think he took what, Morgan Le Fay was doing in the original one and did it to where it was like everybody is testing you and it was all leading you to this Green Knight situation.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it really kind of feeds into our thought that everything was orchestrated by his mother.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even why when he gets to the castle with the Lord and the lady is the woman he's been sleeping with. That's the only
exactly.
It's Vikander, Alicia Vikander.
Yep. Tomb Raider.
She plays both of them. Yeah, Lara Croft. So it's like that's the only person he could think up to be tempted by at this castle.
Wait, I didn't realize it was the same woman. I thought they looked very familiar.
Yeah, that she plays both Essel and the lady.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Essel is the woman at the brothel that I don't know why he doesn't admit that he loves her. I think he does, but I don't think he has the capacity to.
Well, I think it's also a political thing. He's too high in the court, and she's a prostitute.
Yeah, she's like, what if I asked you I could be your lady? And he just says nothing. And I'm like, damn, man.
Yeah. I'm going to take her whenever I want you to agree with me on something. I'm going to ask you the question and then do what she did and just move your mouth, but say the words for you like she did.
Back to the lady at the castle. We just need to talk about this whole castle scene a little bit because the interesting thing about them was what were they what was their purpose almost in that trying to make him not go further in the journey?
So I want to talk a little bit about this scene in the book.
Yeah, of course.
So this really takes up most of the story of the written or whatever spoken story. So in the beginning, the thing with the knight happens. His journey to this castle is literally like in a paragraph. It's like he went on a perilous journey and there were bears and they were thieves and he had to kill them all. And then he got to a castle. Like that's right. It. So they really drew that part out for the movie.
Which I think might have been better.
I agree. I appreciate that. So the castle takes up most of it. And so the deal that the Lord makes with Gawain is the same as it is in the book, in both of them, where he's like, you'll stay here. You're my guest. You stay here. I'm going to go out and hunt. And then whatever I get in my hunt, I'll bring back to you. But you have to give me the gift that you received here at the castle. And so every time the Lord leaves, the lady tries to seduce Gawain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that thing where he's always like, I'll give you a kiss. That's it. So when the Lord comes back with the deer, he kisses the Lord. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just this exchange of presents. And so the way that I saw it, the book itself, the point of the book is his virtue and his loyalty.
Right.
His symbol is the 5-pointed star. And it's like these 5 points of his virtue as a knight. And he has to keep them all up because if one crumbles, they all fall.
Right.
And so this here is a temptation. Right. And so I don't know. I was really thinking about these hunting scenes because they're so huge in the book. And to me, it's like the Lord hunting is the lady hunting Gawain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're both, well, one's being hunted, the other one's hunting.
Right, exactly. Right. And so, you know, he's the prey. Gawain's the prey in the castle. And so it's, will his virtue win out over the temptation? You know, and so they kill the deer on the first time, then the second time they kill a boar, and on the third time they kill a fox. Yeah, so I was afraid the fox is going to die. He doesn't die in the movie.
I know, thank you.
But there is this exchange of this girdle. And that's the lesson. She's like, fine, if you won't be with me, then you have to take this girdle. And so that is his one trip up, is that by taking a woman's girdle, you're showing that you're having like sort of indecent thoughts and you're lusting after someone.
Ew.
And and then when he goes to the knight's like, not only did you flinch, but you took the girdle, so I'm going to have to cut you.
Right.
You know?
Because you didn't uphold your, because even if you took it, that's still a symbol technically that point in
of
the 5
lust,
virtues. Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's where that really boils down to. So in the movie, I mean, there was semen. I mean,
so okay, well, we'll explain that in a moment. Let's not get to that scene just yet, because it is a lot. But yeah, I did like her, the way she was trying to tempt him constantly. It was like, oh, he likes books, let me get him a book. Oh, he wants a picture, let me, do this and then see what I can do. So it wasn't just like downright she's going to like undress and be like, have me. She kept trying to pull at different things that weren't just physical. And by the end of it, also her mother or that old lady that was walking around, I did, she was terrifying.
I don't think she was there, really.
Oh, because nobody else addressed her.
Nope.
And he was the only one that saw
her. It's very
her.
Sixth Sense. You know what I mean? Like Bruce Willis was there, but nobody spoke to him.
And she had the blindfold over
like the mom.
Yeah, like the mom.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's also weird.
Yeah.
His mom was watching him.
I did also want to say that the book that she gave him, I thought was interesting that it's phallus shaped.
I thought it was a heart. When you open it up and
when it's closed, it looks like a penis and testicles. And then when she hands it to him, she like grazes her hand on it. It's like the beginning of the temptation.
Wow, I thought it was a heart.
Well, it's a heart when you open it.
Oh, a penis turns into a heart.
The more you know.
Rainbow.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. Because everywhere else there were rectangle books, baby. But she was like, this one's for you.
Yeah, she knew where that was too. She walked right over to the table and was like, I got the perfect penis book for you.
It's a wiener.
Do you know what I want? Wink, wink. Like, that's what she's doing.
Do you see what it is? Book.
But throughout his journey, after he loses everything, he gets pieces of it back when I'm assuming he does the right thing or the wrong thing. And it really depends on who's giving this to him. Like whenever he found St. Winifred's head for her, the axe appeared again. In this scene with the lady of this castle, when he didn't have his girdle that his mom made for him that said, keep on there, keep it with you.
Yeah.
She had the girdle, which she says she made, but I think it's his girdle that his mom gave him.
The thing that the urchin kid stole, he stole the axe and he stole the girdle, and then they both magically appeared back.
And the horse too.
And the horse.
Yeah.
So happy the horse came back.
Yeah. Well, kind of. So in this ending scene with the Lord and Lady of the castle, she, I thought she was going to like force herself on him, but he constantly was like, no. But then she just kind of like gives him a handy.
Yeah.
I guess. And she was like, do you want it? Like pretty much like you're only going to get this girdle if you ejaculate, I guess. I don't know.
If you give in to the temptation.
Right.
Right.
And it does happen, and there is semen, and it's It's, you know, it's fine, but the noises it makes and just like the amount, and it was like all over the girdle. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, your mom made that for you.
And
she was watching the whole time.
But also, like, I mean, if you're going to be a pee-pee Tommy, you're going to get what you're going to get. Also, she's forcing this entire situation, so she knew what was going to happen.
Ew.
Yeah.
It's still gross.
Well, this is the thing, though, right? Like, if the mother is sort of representing Morgan Le Fay, she's evil, so she's trying to push an agenda. So she's willing to do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still not convinced she's evil. She could be.
Right. I'm just saying if she represents, like, because the thing is that in, you know, in these stories, Morgan is usually the enemy, but sometimes she helps Arthur too.
Right.
So there's that. It's a blurred line, I feel.
Yeah,
like
it's
here.
the duality. I mean, it's the yin to the yang. And
the two sides of the coin.
Exactly. And then, you know, he goes and finds the Lord, and he was like, you have to give me what you got. And I was like, oh, man,
Handy in the woods.
Yeah, I was like, does he have to give him a handy while he's on this horse?
Yep.
No, he just kisses him very awkwardly. And then I was like, oh, I heard rumors that there was some gay stuff in this, but I guess one kiss is enough for gayness.
One kiss is all it takes. Dua Lipa. Falling in love with me in the woods. Anyway.
And the fox comes back. But so towards the end of this, when he gets to the Green Knight and he's about to, you know, quote unquote, give in, like be like, okay, I'm going to accept this fate. He ends up not, and he flinches.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this scene, we get him flinching and then being like, I thought it was hilarious because he like flinches for like the last time and then he like kind of backs away and he's like, I'm sorry.
Gotta go. Oh,
runs away.
I don't want to do this.
So he doesn't fulfill the game. He doesn't fulfill the year-long promise that he made to the Green Knight. And he goes away and his horse is magically there. And then he goes back home. And then we get this very long sequence of what happens after that, from that choice, from the choice of not going through with his promise. And, you know, he ends up becoming king. He gets Essel pregnant, but then takes the child away and she no longer has the child, which was a devastating scene. And I was like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's all. They paid her. I was like, here you go. Your baby's worth a couple shekels or whatever the money is in
doubloons.
Yeah. I don't know. But, and then we see that as time goes on, the kingdom is just in misery and they're losing wars. His son ends up dying. And it's just like continuously going down the line of like, you obviously didn't make the right choice.
Right.
Here.
And throughout this whole thing, you see him just constantly holding on to that girdle.
It's a sign of shame.
It's a sign, but it's also, to me, it felt like a mad king.
Mm-hmm.
He went crazy and is like, no. Like, even when this beautiful, I'm going to say virgin is brought to him, right? She's all dressed in white. She goes to undo the girdle and he says no.
Right. He keeps it on forever.
Forever. Because we even see that they have a baby, you know, and it's just, he goes mad, I think. And this one choice has led his whole life astray.
Yeah. And then he's in his throne room. There's nobody else in there. The round table's gone. It's the wife, the son, his mother, a couple guards, and whoever they're fighting at this time is breaking in. And then they all leave. He's left there by himself. He takes off the girdle and his head falls off. Yikes.
I mean, nearly headless Nick, I guess, the whole time.
No, it's fully headless Nick in this one. So, but then time reverses.
Yeah.
And he's back kneeling before the Green Knight. And he sees all of this. And he's left with that decision of like, do you want to go down that path? Because what you're about to do, if you leave without doing this, that's going to be your choice.
Mm-hmm.
But he ends up staying. And he takes off the girdle. And he's like, okay, I'm ready. So it's interesting because it's like we're left with, you know, what happens after that? Because we get that scene and then the knight's like, good job. Like you made the right choice.
Yeah.
Like you took it off. You saw what was going to happen and he spares him ish.
Yeah. Well, in the book, the two things that he did wrong, like I said, is that one, he flinches, which he does in the book. And the other thing is that he took the girdle. So he's like, look, you came here, you upheld your part of the bargain. Yeah, you flinched, your virtue sort of faltered. So he just takes the axe, he slices the back of his neck open. He's like, all right, well, now you have a scar. You have to live with this. He sends him back and he tells his tale to Arthur and they are joyous that he's returned. And it's kind of like, that's just his tale of virtue.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm thinking, I guess the same happens. Mom's proud. The fox morphs into his mom, and she's like, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't see that.
Yeah.
It ends with the knight telling him,
Yeah.
you made, good job,
Yeah.
essentially. But I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? Because it's like, how much is he going to change when he comes back? Because that was something that was asked by a few people throughout this journey. I was like, what? So you're just going to do this and then hope that magically you're going to be a changed person? It's like, I think he is, but is it going to be for the good or for the worse? Like, is he going to go back and be like, Essel, I do love you. I was wrong. So,
I think so. I mean, I think that's the point, is that he went on this journey and there were two paths. He saw the one path that would lead him to ultimate power,
misery,
but also misery, right? And so now he's seen what life could be, so he could go down the path that he really wants. And I'm hoping this kicked him in the butt to get his life in gear. So maybe he does go back and he marries Essel, and then he can still be a knight, and he has this tale, and that's the tale he can tell everyone, and that's it.
I mean, this is essentially his mom trying to whip him into shape. Be like, you need to move out. You need to get a job. You need to marry your girlfriend that you've had forever.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly.
That can't be it, though.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially with endings like this, it's kind of like, who knows? There could be certain things. I'm sure the director is going to come out at one point and say, like, this is kind of what I see happening. And I've seen a few things with him talking about that he's changed the ending from when they initially conceived it.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm curious to see what that initial ending was and then what he did here.
Yeah.
Like, was it more gruesome? Was it more straightforward? Was it more ambiguous?
More ambiguous. My gosh.
But real quick, we did not talk about the costume design.
Oh yeah.
In this, because we've kind of gone through most of the story, because a lot of the story is very long, drawn out scenes. And I don't want to say drawn out in a negative way necessarily, but they're just very long scenes.
I mean, some of them were drawn out and long. But
it's subjective.
I was trying to figure out, so there was a lot of smoke in this movie. You know what I mean? Like when he first meets the trickster kid, he's in this field and out of nowhere there's just giant plume of smoke. And I was like, okay, listen, you're in the middle of the field. There's no reason there's that much smoke.
It was on fire.
But there was no fire. There was just dead bodies everywhere.
There was fire in the background.
Point is that I'm trying to figure out if that's a symbol of when a choice has to be made. When there's the smoke, it's a test.
Oh, I just thought it was because England is wet. Also winter. But I guess
I've been to England a couple of times.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I don't know.
Listen, I'm trying to give validity to this thing happening, other than them just being like, get the smoke machine pumping.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a stylistic choice, but also could mean something. I mean, that is the hard thing about these types of movies and these types of stories, is that maybe on second watch, you'll pick up on things and you'll be like, oh, yeah, because right now, since we can only see it in theaters, we can't really hit rewind or watch it again.
Right.
It is hard to wait, was this the thing I saw? And I'm pretty sure at the end of it, the Green Knight's face changed into other people's faces.
No, you just went crazy by the end of it. You yourself were in a fever dream.
I had a bunch of shrooms. I mean, that's a great way to describe this movie. It's a dark medieval fantasy fever dream.
Yeah. Swimming upside down onto the floor, but it's a skull. What's happening?
Yeah. But back to the costumes.
Sorry.
Back to the costumes. I mean, this movie visually is so stunning that the colors that they use, because they could have just went all grays and blacks and stuff like that, but the choice to bring colors into this gives it that extra level of fantasy, but also visually stunning.
Yeah, let's talk about jewel tones, people, okay? I mean, our boy Gawain, he is rocking this gorgeous golden cloak the entire time.
I want one.
Oh, yeah, me too. It was quilted, had a hood. I was like, this is it.
And his mother with the hood, the giant billowing hood that she had, or cape, shawl? Whatever she had over her head. And then her gaggle of her coven.
Yeah.
The priestesses, witches, whatever you want to call them. And they all looked amazing, but they were the most fantasy-ish looking out of everybody. And I liked that distinction between them, because you saw the knights that looked regular.
Yeah.
I do want to say that Arthur and his queen, the choice to make the crown and then have that halo built into it stunning.
I thought, here I am my whole life going like, if I ever had a crown, I want jewels, jewels, jewels. But seeing that, ooh, that's effective.
Yeah, I want a halo with my crown.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Super effective, super stunning.
I also loved when he gets to the castle, when we first see him in the castle, right? He's in that bed with the lush, like sapphire fabric, and it's surrounding him. And then the lady the entire time is wearing the lush sapphire fabric. So he immediately being in that castle, that she's the test. And it's just beautiful, that beautiful blue. And I agree with you that like it's so easy with, medieval fantasy and things like that. It's like to do a lot of dark grays and stuff like that. So I really appreciated these pops of color. And even that yellow that he's wearing, those are the flowers in the fields whenever he's on his journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a great choice to do it because, you have the title character, the Green Knight, and they're supposed to be like emerald and green from head to toe. This one is more literal or / more fantasy-ish, that he's like literally a tree.
He's Groot
person. Yeah, he is Groot, but played by what's his name, Ralph Ineson. I believe he's the dad
Ineson,
from The Witch.
Yeah,
and also we have Dickie, that was the mom in The Witch.
Oh yeah,
love her. They're both in there. They both play. I mean, as soon as I heard that voice for the Green Knight, I was like, the witch is back because the mom is there.
That's right.
Where is Ann Taylor-Joy?
Oh.
And not the kids. The other
no,
kids
they were
away.
terrible.
Black Phillip could make an appearance though.
I did appreciate the animals in this were a hoot. There's like the first scene of this movie are these geese like nipping at this ram. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But also speaking of Kate Dickie's character, Queen, when we first see her in her opening scene, she has this like incredible bodice that has like these tiny little animal figures like sewn onto it. Like they're like these metal animal figures.
Yeah, think of like silver animal crackers, and that's just what's like all over her. And it doesn't look silly. It looks it's pretty amazing.
Gorgeous. And it's like to think someone made that. Someone had that they spent time picking out which animal went where and how they were going to sew it on. And it just fit together so well. That was just like, I loved that. I loved that so
Arthur's
much.
cloak cape thing that he had, I wasn't a fan of because he had these big like square metal like pictures of things like on it and down it. I'm like, that it just doesn't like, it looks great, but it's like practicality. No, you're not going to be able to run fast. You're going to be smacking yourself with metal plates.
No, I really hope that was just his Christmas cape, just for show, for a nice event. Because otherwise, I agree with you. Running through a field with Excalibur, too much. Too much.
All right, so let's go into some final thoughts with this, because this is a big departure for us on this podcast to do a story like this.
There was not one superhero in it.
We don't just do superhero things. We did a whole season on Shadow and Bone, for crying out loud.
They had powers.
close to superheroes. No, so this I really enjoyed this movie for what I didn't expect something else. I had a feeling it was going to be very A24, but with amazing actors, amazing visuals, and an interesting story that I'll probably think about for a while, or like anytime I'll think about it again, I'm just like, what did that mean? You know, I like movies like that. Sometimes you don't need just action. Sometimes you need something that's like, was this good? It wasn't bad. I liked it, but what did I like?
Okay, so I have a question for you, and I want you to be honest.
Okay.
It's just me and you. Okay, you can be honest. No one else is listening.
Okay, let me stop recording this.
If this wasn't an A24 film, would you have liked it still?
Yes. Yes, it's not just because it's A24. I like A24 because they typically do stories like this, and it's a very stylistic choice a lot of times. Like, I mean, even if you watch Lighthouse, completely different from most of their other stuff. It's insane.
Yeah.
But it's also good. There is just a little bit too much of masturbation in that one.
I mean, it seems to be a theme.
Yeah.
We're going for it, they said.
No, but I mean, I think Focus puts out movies that are very, not like A24, but they're very heavy movies a lot of the time. So I like those because I feel like since they're independent studios and they're not run by giant corporations, that they have the freedom to stretch their legs a little bit to tell some very unique stories. Again, they're not all great, and I don't like every single part of these movies, but I like the oomph, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Again, I thought artistically it was beautiful. Stylistically, it was really cool. I just think it got a little lost in itself. But yeah, was Dev Patel great? Yeah. Was Lisa
amazing.
Vikander great? Yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody was really good. Really effective performances. I it's interesting though. I feel like they played with humor sometimes. Like
I feel like that's the director's little
yeah,
trademark on there, because some of his other movies that he's done, like A Ghost Story, it does that too. Where it's like very serious, and then sometimes you're just like, wait, was that supposed to be funny?
Yeah.
Because it was funny.
Like even when King Arthur goes to see him, when he's like trying to think about if he's going to go to the Green Chapel, he's like, my tooth hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's like, you have mud on your face.
Yeah. It's like, you're gross, kid. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So, they played with humor, which I'm still going over in my head. It's like, I almost like wanted, like, it's like, if you're going to play with humor, let's like make it funny. Make it funnier.
No,
I mean, not like slapstick comedy, but like give me the little cackle, give me a little moment to really chuckle, so that it does break me from the seriousness of everything around.
So, are you wanting like a Monty Python and the Holy Grail situation?
Absolutely not.
No.
Too much.
Wait, you've never seen that, have you?
I tried to watch it once and I fell asleep.
Guys,
the world's coming after me. I know.
Comment below to tell Derek to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And if you don't like that movie, do not comment below, because I need support.
I mean, I believe our listeners are very big fan. Like, we have fans of Monty Python.
Yeah, on the Discord and the Patreon chat, there has been talks of a watch party.
So let me finish my thoughts by saying, again, beautifully done. Would I watch it again? No. I don't think like it would never be something that'd be like, oh, I really want to see that again.
I would watch it again, maybe once, maybe twice, if I still don't have like answers to questions that I have, or like wanting to really look to see what they're trying to convey in some of the things. Because I don't know, I feel like you might need to watch this twice, because his decisions literally lead him back to the same exact spot.
Yeah.
So I think knowing that now might be more interesting to see how the journey plays out.
And I'm also wondering maybe if they took other tales of the Knights of the Round Table and put them in there, like the Saint Winifred storyline. Maybe that's another knight's tale that they brought into this movie. Maybe there are influences that I'm not aware of that could help round this world out for me.
Yeah, I mean, I just chalked it up to, I'm glad they weren't in the castle for most of it. They had to expand it a little bit, and there had to have been a reason for all of them.
Yeah, and I even said to you, I don't like, if this movie follows the story, it's going to be mostly these giant hunting scenes. Right. So I am glad it wasn't that. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, music was fantastic. I thought that music, some of the moments were like, started off very much like with a intense violin or like orchestra score, and then it kind of got a little more fanciful throughout it. But there was, the only thing I will say that I did not like about this movie is the constant like,
I didn't like that at all.
Please stop. Like, I got it, and like she was doing it to Essel when she was giving birth. I'd be like, shh, get out.
Oh my God, yeah. If I'm in pain, please do not sing a limerick next to me.
Right in my ear.
Thank you.
Right. She had like Queen Amidala hair
she
too.
Sure did.
I was like,
oh my God. Well, the lady at the castle was just like an amplified Leia.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she had big old cinnamon buns.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one, the older one, had braids just going right down. Okay, yeah. I mean, I liked it. I think that if you're a fan of these types of movies, or movies that are like, is this what it seems? More like thought-provoking, a little compelling, a little mysterious on what they're trying to tell, watch it. If you like, also some people are like, I think there was this person that I saw was like, this movie was so weird, but I really liked it. I think that really sums up my feelings about it. It's like, it is so weird, but I liked it.
Like, I will say, so there were 4 other people in the theater with us.
Oh my God, yeah.
2 of them left halfway through the movie.
So
I will say, I was not that level of not enjoying it, where I would be like, we got to get out of here.
It's, why leave? Like, they left at such a weird time.
The Giants.
Yeah, right at the Giants, which is like, I want to say more than halfway.
Yeah.
And it's like, you paid for this. Finish it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the whole like, oh, I hate this. I'm gonna walk out. I feel like there's like a movie theater etiquette, unless the movie turns out to be like, racist,
offensive.
Homophobic. Yeah, offensive. And it's like, okay, well, no, I don't support this or whatever. But it's like, why don't you see how it plays out? Because I feel like by the end, I was like, I got it. You know, I was like, okay, I see what they were trying to do. Leading up to that point, it was very like, where are they going with this?
Yeah. I picture them right now recording their own podcast, tearing it apart.
I left halfway through.
Tweeting like maniacs. So yeah, I mean, but just all in all, like, I know you're like, it sounds like you don't like this, but it's not that I don't like it.
It's not a Derek movie. I think that's what it comes down to.
You know, I enjoy an artistic film. I enjoy something that makes me think, but this just got a little lost for me. Again, it's not that I hated it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, I guess if you want to see it, go see it, but I'm not going to tell you to.
So Derek is not going to force anybody to see it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I will recommend people to see it.
If you're just like, what the hell are they talking about? What giants? What geese? I need to see this, then go for it.
Yeah. And, you know, just be wary of some of those critics and stuff like that. Because, you know, critics are paid to write stuff. And also some audience members just walk out halfway through and have no idea what they're talking about and give it a bad score. So
yeah,
definitely watch it if you want to. But before we go, because we're doing summer movies and we have a little new segment at the end that I guess I'm going to be doing and I almost forgot.
Give me something fun, Noah, after this scary movie.
Sure.
No.
So I'm again doing a snack fact from the movies. And it's just a little fun little history about snacks and movies. So this one is snacks may have saved the movie theaters, obviously. So the last one we talked about how snacks were not allowed.
Too much crunch.
Right. And their ornate carpets. But now, in this point in time, snacks are allowed. But the Great Depression, I like how you're like, give me something fun. I'm like, the Great Depression.
You're like, let's talk about nobody having any food. How about that?
Well, at this time, people didn't have disposable income. So it was like, you could maybe go to the theaters, but since most people weren't going to the theaters in the 1930s, a lot of those theaters just went under. They're like, nobody's coming because nobody has money, so we can't have a theater.
Sure.
Sounds, I mean, kind of like COVID. We saw this happen. People weren't able to go to these businesses, and a lot of them sadly had to shut down. But in the 1930s, so movie theaters had to start serving snacks to get more income. They sold, and this made me mad, popcorn at the time was 10 cents a bag. And it wasn't just like little tiny bags. It was like, you know, like the red and white bags, 10 cents.
My water was $6.
Yeah.
And I dropped the cap.
Oh, yeah, guys. He dropped a cap like
immediately
as soon as he opened it. And he's like, I don't have a cap. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I dropped the cap. I was like, oh, no.
It's gone. No. Sorry. I'm sorry.
But they did this, and it started helping movie theaters generate more income. Prior to this, they actually used vendors. Yeah. And movie theaters started to catch on that, like, oh, it's good for vendors because they can also sell it to non-movie goers, and it's good to like get a community thing going. But then movies that needed money, they were like, wait, people want to eat while they're in the movies. We should start selling this as well.
Hello.
And also like Milk Duds and other like variety of candies back then that started being sold. They were introduced in like the 1920s or so. They were just sold for 5 cents.
Oh my God.
And I know at this time that was more like that could have been the equivalent of like $5 now. But just thinking about that, it's like, that's nothing. I don't even have a nickel lying around anywhere. You know what I mean? It's whole dollars now. There's no like, this is 50 cents. It's like, no, this is $75.
Even like a 99-cent store is now like 99 cents and up.
Oh, that's
or even
such
just like
a
dollar store.
It's such a lie. 99-cent store. I'm like, why is this $5?
They said, look, it says and up. Not lying.
So by this time, moviegoers started associating getting snacks at the movies. So they came hand in hand, and it's all kind of thanks to the Great Depression.
Wow.
Which I think is really interesting.
Well, thank you, snacks, for saving the movies.
Yeah, and also one little tiny fun fact is that by 1945, 40% of all popcorn consumed in the U.S. was at theaters.
Oh, I love popcorn at the movies.
Because people would go to the theaters to watch movies. That's where you eat popcorn.
Heck yeah.
It's so interesting that that terrible point in time really made popcorn be associated with movie theaters.
It's like synonymous with movies.
Exactly.
You know, even to bring up Rotten Tomatoes, when it's rotten, it's usually a little knocked over thing of popcorn.
Yep.
So it's what we think of.
Yeah. So that's a little movie fact. I thought it was interesting to see. I like going through this journey of like the snacks in the movies.
I love
like
a snack.
Where they came from, how they got there.
Keep them coming.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to A Bite Of, artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite Of Pod and on Facebook at A Bite Of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite Of. Bye!